Good evening. Welcome to the Town Council special meeting and executive session, December 5th, 2019. Can I get a roll call, please?
Markowitz present.
Holloway present.
Jones present.
Dan present. Wilson present.
Birch present.
Let it be known, we've established a quorum. Item 2, I would like to ask council to remove that from the agenda tonight.
I'll make a motion that we remove item 2. Applicant not present.
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion?
No, I just wanted to be clear why we're doing it.
Okay. All right, so basically, when the applicant applied for the appeal, put in for the appeal, he was under the impression it was going to be the 19th, and he's actually away on vacation, and he reached out to Zach when he saw it on the agenda and asked if he could be moved to the 19th for when he's home.
Okay, so it's just removed from the agenda, but it's not withdrawn.
It's not withdrawn. It'll be
Okay.
coming back on the 19th.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public comments?
Okay, Bill Parr.
Mr. Mayor and Council, is this the time to address item C on the agenda? Or should I do that?
Yep.
Okay. So I've given you a copy of these comments in writing, but speaking on behalf of General Builders, I'd like to address our October 23rd letter for the project known as Harbor Green Condominiums and answer your questions. The issues before you tonight in the staff report and the request at hand is a unique situation where the town has never had utility service available to the Harbor Green property before. Despite the rezoning for 100 units of multifamily density and a proper agreement with the town, in exchange for the town receiving the 17-acre tract adjoining Harbor Green over 10 years ago in December 2008. General Builders has worked for over 2 years, over 2.5 years actually, to gain the approvals necessary to get the permits issued, and the town staff was central to those efforts as well. The point being that the need for town utilities at this site has long been established. It's not a surprise to anybody. General Builders has moved forward in good faith to develop the project in accordance with all state and local codes, including the very costly design and engineering and the ultimate permitting of 4 different well and septic systems. Its ability to utilize the property to highest and best use has been restricted by the lack of town utilities, which is why the units have all been designed and permitted with only 1- and 2-bedroom units. The entire design of the project has been governed by the need for septic systems and reserved greenfield areas and the limits of working under the maximum gallon per day limits of DEQ's mass greenfield requirements. It was only in hindsight that General Builders learned that the town had the ability to provide water and sewer to the site. And on learning that, we diligently collaborated with staff and council towards normalizing the utility service to the site in accordance with the town's various mandates to provide that service. This is the background of the request tonight that's in the staff report. Building 1 is ready for utility connection now, and a septic system will soon be installed at a very significant cost, in addition to the engineering and permitting costs. We simply ask that these costs be credited toward the town's normal connection charges once the town utilities reach the site for connection. We believe this is a just and equitable request and respectfully ask for your approval. The second element of our request was not for a waiver of any future fees, but a reasonable extension of time to pay them. We believe that this is also an equitable request and an offset of General Builders' very substantial expenses in redesigning the other 3 buildings that are already permitted in order to increase the bedroom counts. Additional engineering will also be necessitated to accommodate the installation of town water and sewer lines on the property. The elimination of the on-site utilities will also provide an opportunity to improve the lot layouts and land use plan. We believe that all of this helps build the town's tax base and provide much-needed mid-level priced housing units to serve the town and its growing workforce. In our discussion on this particular topic, we further believe that the town should consider a change to the payment requirements of the $12,350 per unit fee, and perhaps offer developers the alternative of payment at the time of sale and/or occupancy of the unit, particularly to encourage new mid-level and/or workforce housing to serve the needs of the town. We appreciate this opportunity to further discuss our request and welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Sandra Behrens.
It's funny to do this ahead of time, but anyway. Mine is about 4E, and you're going to discuss that tonight. It seems like it's sort of a done deal that you just say, sure, we're going to sign up because it's all new and nothing's written in stone and all of that. My concern, and I don't know any of them really, are with the employees, and I don't know if that's too much nitty-gritty to even discuss, but are your employees going to be better off or worse off under the Hampton Roads Sewer District? That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
The employees of the sewer.
Excuse me, I have one that was submitted in writing to be read into record from Edward Wells at 202 Strawberry Street. It says, Mayor and Town Council members, I am submitting this letter to express my concerns with the proposed new development by General Builders, LLC. In a previous Town Council meeting, the developers told the members of council and the public that they were permitted to have 1 quad unit per acre of land to satisfy the code for the septic system. This would let them build approximately 16 to 17 quad units on their property. If the town brings the waste and water lines to the property, they said they could increase the amount of quad units to 25. That is approximately a 50% increase in total units. In addition, they are asking for credits for the cost of septic and well water connections on their first quad unit from the town to put towards future connections. I find this absurd. They, the developers, have been working on this project for some time. They should have calculated for waste and water costs before the 11th hour. Now, they are also asking for hookup and tap fees to be waived until the units are sold and not at the time of issuance of a CO. These concessions are asking a lot of the town. I understand the advantages of new development in the town. I hope that the developers would work with the town to meet some of our needs. I suggest a possible percentage of affordable housing or badly needed workforce housing be included in this development. Thank you, Ed Wells.
Next, item 4A, Harbor Development Certificate Application.
Thank you. So this is just an informational report to let you know that this is coming down the line. So this is a Harbor Area Review Board application for a Harbor Development Certificate at 1100 Bay Shore Road. The applicant would like to construct a 60 by 120 foot metal building approximately 30 feet in height. And this will be constructed, I'm not going to go into the details, but it's on the south of the harbor. Lot 17 is what it's more known for. Currently it's operating as a boat storage kind of lot. But they want to put a building there to bring the work inside. So it'd be primarily for working inside and storing machinery and tools. And a pre-application meeting was held on November 25th, and the Harbor Area Review Board meeting is scheduled for December 17th to discuss the project. So we'll be coming back to you guys next month for approval or denial. That's all I've got.
You can schedule that meeting for the 11th.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the 11th. You're right. December 17th is the storage review board. A lot of meetings, and you're right.
And I believe if everything, depending on how that meeting goes, it may be back here December 19th.
Yes, correct. That's so the 11th would be the Harbor Area Review.
Yeah.
11th would be the Harbor Area Review Board meeting, and then it would come back to you guys for the 19th Town Council meeting.
Councilman Burge?
Zach, could we confirm from the materials that are in our package that this is the building that's shown in the red box?
It is,
Which
yeah.
is basically slot 17 is our old wastewater plant area?
Correct.
And then, okay, on the backs or on the south side of that south of the piece. Okay.
What's the value? Is that light industrial?
It's Harbor.
Still,
It's still Harbor.
Yeah.
across the street.
Mm-hmm.
If I was confused in that where it says future building too, just to make sure I was exactly right about
Yeah, the
that.
future building, that's the one that's in the light industrial.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good, I'll exit out and make sure that it's very clear as to what is
Okay,
actually.
thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Zach. Item B, vision and guiding principles for historic district development.
Okay, so that's me. I have a slide presentation. I kept it to 3 slides, knowing the attention span of this group.
Please, man.
You weren't looking at me.
In fact, I was at the end of the last agenda, which we were half asleep on, so I'm trying to keep this simple.
We'll call 3 slides, don't include this one.
This doesn't impact, yes, you get 3 more. All right, so in this packet, you have the vision portion I dropped off. That's really not as important as the guiding principles. They were tweaked over the last couple weeks since our last meeting, and that's what's in front of you right now. So I'm at a point where I'm finished to my satisfaction on what I want to present. These particular slides are really the crux of what I'm trying to propose as changes as we move forward. So let me just take that.
Seems like we're already moving forward. You got to sober to seven.
Yeah.
There's your first error. There's my first
I was like, wow, that is so neat.
error. There you go. All right, so in researching the understanding of what the National Register, as opposed to what our local list is, if you go to Article 8, in there it specifically says there is a list that the town maintains that really envelopes the contributing and non-contributing. Where is it? That's all it states. So over the past couple weeks, found out that it is the same list that the Department of Historic Resources had submitted for the National Register. And that's the first 2 columns on contributing and non-contributing. So that's what is referenced right now in our Article 8. It was back in 1990 that was nominated and accepted into the National Register. The important thing in there, it covers a period of significance from the 80s to 1940. That was a period of significance. 1880s to 1940. Provides boundary description in great detail, has a map, a couple maps, they're kind of faded, it's odd, and it has the non-contributing properties blacked out. Has some photos of particular structures that they wanted to describe in detail, and provides a list then of the contributing and non-contributing structures. So there were in that list 529 contributing and 38 non-contributing.
What's the difference between a building and a structure for this?
Think of them the same, a house.
Why
Now-
would they be in 2 different categories?
Well, okay, that's a good point, because what they did is come back in the survey and capture structures like garages, well, accessory units. So let me continue on with that. The first two columns there are what is our current inventory map as depicted in Article 8. Okay? What was submitted recently and approved in April of 2019 was an update. This was the thing that caught some of us by surprise as to, hey, we're all sitting here and not aware of this coming through. The survey was conducted back in 2017 by DHR, the Historic Resources crowd. The additional information they brought to the table was considered additional to the original document. Some of the contributing now included outbuildings and reclassification of previous non-contributing structures. So if you look at the previous list, 38 non-contributing, 25 of those items was redesignated as contributing in the new list. I didn't compare the list to pick out an example or two, but just trust me, 25 moved over. The big thing is they had changed the period of significance from the 1880s to 1964, the period of time when the bridge was built and put into service. That ended in their minds, or in our minds, I guess, at the time when this is submitted, the end of the new period of significance that now envelopes these contributing and non-contributing structures. All right? And it does provide a detailed list of the contributing and non-contributing. So when you look at the list, and you say, geez, it's grown by at least 50 in the contributing area, and you can see half of those were for non-contributing prior. A lot of the outbuildings were classified, and new buildings that were built since then was added to the non-contributing. Quite a change. You had a good 200 plus that were added to the list. Now, when you go into, tonight we had, and is the property that was postponed, 206 and 208 Madison. If you look at that on these lists, you'll see 3 contributing structures on that property: the house, the garage, and a shed. Okay? So, in reality, if he were to go and revise or update any of those particular structures, and only primarily on the house, but in these lists you have some of the accessory structures on the properties included. Or some are included and captured under non-contributing. So all I'm saying at this point, we have an updated list that is posted on the website of the Department of Historic Resources that has essentially an update to this list. Now, we, as a certified local government, dictate what our list is. Regardless of what's posted in the National Register, we have the ability to dictate our list. What I am proposing here is for us to adopt the second list and bring it to a period of significance to 1964 and call that officially our end. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't subsequently add to it, but it's going to have to take a formal process, which is dictated in Article 8, on how additional properties are brought into the fold as contributed. So that's one of the major things that are kind of peeled back over the last couple of weeks relative to that, and I'm proposing, make it simple and just marry up with the second list in order to determine what is contributing and not contributing. Any questions on that aspect? You don't have to pass Joe, just any questions?
Sounds like they included every building.
In the entire town, yes, it could have been, it could have been.
That's for the 270 outbuildings and all that stuff.
They meaning who?
Yeah, the DHR came back and actually did a house walkthrough, right?
It sounds like they included everything this time
That could have
versus.
So the boundary line, the boundary changed.
No,
The boundary did not.
no, there was no update to the first list where I had said
No,
it provides a map
I
or
understand.
boundary description that stayed.
Okay, so the,
That's what I'm saying. I think they included all the outbuildings and new construction
Right.
and buildings they didn't include that were there but not.
It's not really,
what's
it's very
important,
apples to apples.
Yeah.
so I think what we were talking about before, what's important to note is this particular area, the National Historic District, and our local historic district, the local historic district is somewhat bigger in the map for the guidelines than this, but this is the building block for all that, right? Paul?
That's right,
Okay.
that's right. And it's in a list, so you
Yeah.
can go to the
Yeah.
list, you don't have to look at a map and try to read something that's 50 years old. It's a list that's updated and typed now very well. Okay? So if there's no questions there, we'll move on to the next. Okay, my house is here. I kept real simple so you don't critique the house. It doesn't have windows and doors or what have you. So what's being proposed and has been proposed is that we've got 2 criteria. 1, rehabilitation, and 1, new construction. All right, let's start with the new construction. I have an infill house in the historic district that will come under a new section called new construction. They'll have their list of approved materials. They'll have whatever they map out in the design guidelines in the way of mass and setback, roof lines, what have you. May not get in as much detail as the rehab criteria, but in any case, I'm not establishing what the criteria will be. I'm just saying it's separate for new houses. Any questions on that? All right, so let me come back then to our contributing and non-contributing. The reason I'm pressing the differentiation between the two is because if I have a contributing structure that has an alteration, it falls under the rehabilitation section of our design guidelines. Straightforward. I don't think there's any question about that. The new addition on a contributing, we talked in the past, we have misinterpreted at times, this is an actual add-on structure kind of event. You push back the house, add another room that's separate. They want it to conform, but not to mimic and be misrepresented under rehabilitation. So the standards are, yes, you can do that, and use new design criteria for that. Okay? So that's pretty straightforward too. The thing that I'm pressing here is introducing the fact that non-contributing structures, in my mind, should also fall under the new construction criteria.
So you're keeping with that.
That's what I'm still proposing.
Right, but you shift it at one time.
Yeah,
You were gonna
there's
drop
been
it.
discussions,
Right,
yes,
right,
yes.
good.
All right, so alterations and any new to the non-contributing structure will come under the purview of new construction criteria. So let me give you my favorite example of Jackson siding. In the previous push was take the aluminum siding off, which we all agreed we don't want. But rather than restore it back to the original wood under rehabilitation criteria, we would say, what is your acceptable material for the siding under the new construction? And either final is there or not. I don't want to dictate that now. I want to have it established separately where non-contributing has the ability to point to new construction and say, out of that list of material, that's what I'm going to use. That's in your design guidelines.
And Paul, in that particular example, that home was not contributing under the section of the Article 8 first inventory, right?
In the 1940s, did I check, was it added subsequently? I did check, and I can't remember what I found.
That particular one was a non-contributing structure.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's
That's what
whole
I'm
point.
saying, I'm presenting it as though it's a non-contributing
Right.
structure.
And it
Right.
was, okay,
And it was not a contributing structure on the first list.
right,
Especially when we went through.
right, which, and I was harping about that, not to beat a dead horse, but might take one more look at it. Okay.
All right? Any questions on this aspect? All right. The last piece, a little bit more straightforward, demolition. If you remember about a year ago, we had a change to our Article 8 to remove demolition from that section and say it was a duplicate in necessity. We have a demolition section in Article 4. Okay? And rather than have it two places with two, groups dictating, at that time, right or wrong, we elected to remove it and use Article 4's language. If you go to the state code, it is very specific on demolition on contributing structures. What we had in Article 8 met the state code requirements. So what I am saying, we need to restore that to Article 8 and involve the Historic District Review Board and the Town Council. And it's a very elaborate number of steps. You just can't tear down. You've got to go through these. Can you try to sell it? Does the town offer to buy it? And time limits, you know, so it's not, hey, I want to do it next weekend, let's get this moving. It takes like a year to get through that process. All I'm saying is we've got to restore that. That's pretty straightforward in my mind. I just want to bring to your attention, though, the non-contributing structures will still be governed by Article 4 as they had done in the past, too. Okay? Article 4 basically brings it to the zoning administrator who goes through a certain review. And it's very different from a contributing structure that has guidance in Article 8. That's all I had as far as the material. You have guiding principles in front of you. I can open it to questions or elect to bring it back again, but I'm at a point where unless I receive direction in some fashion to change, ultimately what I want to do is have the town council say, we agree with these guiding principles. And at that point, then it's going to go through the planning commission and the historic review board. Some of these guiding principles are no never mind, it's motherhood statements that won't change anything. Others will change Article 8, and others will change the design guidelines. So from here, we'll have to differentiate once this is approved, or as it's approved, that then we'll decide thereafter which particular documents, and if those documents will proceed on the course that they have to take.
Anybody have any questions?
All your leadership on this is incredible. And it's-
Well, it's been an education, that's
So it's
the
very
thing,
well
just
documented in every step.
never ends, yes.
There's nothing here that's just an opinion piece, it's documented.
Yeah, that's the way I want. If somebody has another, they're not opinion, if you got a different statement, come and make a change and tell me what's it based on. And I have no problems. I just put together what I felt was defendable in my mind, and I'm ready to open up discussions. I did have a meeting with 2 members of the Historic Review Board this morning, 2 hours worth, and there was no great pushback there. I don't want to offer an opinion as to what they felt, but I just said I wanted to communicate face-to-face with them. And I think it was a good exchange of information back and forth. And that will take its course once we agree to whatever we agree to and work its way through the system here.
Well, it's gonna take away a lot of ambiguity about what goes forward with what structure. It's gonna make it a lot easier, less appeals.
I'm hoping that's the case.
Well, you answered my question. I was going to ask if we had any preliminary discussions with the Historic District Review Board. And that's great, and glad to hear that it goes on next to planning and historic, because I think you played, a reactionary piece. You have something and you can defend why each piece is there.
Right, and we can ultimately agree, no, we don't like item 3.
Right.
And I'm fine with that, I just want to move on.
Does council feel like the next step is planning?
We've got a citizen raising his hand.
He's from the historic review.
Mr. Tom, what do you got?
I was at the meeting with Ed Wells, and if I could address you just briefly.
Sure.
Thank you. The meeting was very cordial, and I have great respect for Paul and the work that he's done. And I thought about it all afternoon and into the evening, and I read it over and over and over. And I think in the long range, what Paul has done is like concrete, is wonderful. But I think it took away the flexibility of the Historic Review Board. And it's a matter of trust. And I can't agree with you all more that the Historic Review Board has not done they've not done due diligence in their jobs in the past. But in the way back, they did a good job. And I think what Paul's done is written it in stone and for a very good reason. But it's like making a promise. If I promise to you, Smitty, you know I will keep my word. And so would the other members of the board, Carrie. And I think that we're the best that we've ever had in ability to make good decisions. But I think what Paul's done is taken that away because there's no trust, and legitimately, there's no trust in the Historic Review Board in the past. I just wanted to present that, and I think Paul's done a good job. But it's in perpetuity that it can never be changed. Once you all accept it, our hands are all in handcuffs.
No, well, let me answer that. I don't agree that it can't be changed. At this point in time, let's just say the comp plan results, survey results, all of a sudden come out with a hard and fast, this is what the community wants to do different. We want houses we paint green. I don't know what it is, but with the comp plan updates, that is a vehicle that will send a message to town council that, hey, the community wants to go in this particular direction, and what is presented here can change.
And I mean, one of the things that I think is that you are a group that has very consistent direction right now, but what we're seeing, just in the, for example, the appeal that was going to come before us tonight, prior to that, different groups have allowed things to happen. So we don't, my understanding is that the guiding principles are to give us a solid ground so that there's consistency, because different personalities come and go on commissions
I
and
don't
councils,
disagree with
right?
that, and I agree with that, and I think Paul did a good job in encapsulating that.
Yeah.
The stonework is laid, and I agree with stonework. You've got to have a good foundation to build whatever you're going to build. However, I think it shows, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm reading it wrong. I think in my mind, just my opinion, it shows a lack of trust from the town council to the existing Historic Review Board. That's my opinion only, and I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Mayor, I think it might be appropriate, the staff recommendation on this item was to review this draft vision and the guiding principles for potential changes, okay? It doesn't say that we're making these changes, it's saying that we're accepting this information and all its background information to cast a vision for, as Paul incorporated real simply, at the new set of contributing and non-contributing structures as recognized by the Department of Historic Resources, for us to generalize a vision that would be using those contributing and non-contributing structures for the Historic Review Board purposes of an infill and what that might turn out to be, and we're not saying what that is in terms of materials or whatever, but that's our general framework. So we're casting a new vision for the framework. And in it, there will necessarily be some changes to the zoning ordinance, particularly to the overlays. So I think it's appropriate that we offer support and vote for support, and I will make a motion to support this draft vision and guiding principles. And in doing that, then we submit this vision and principles to the necessary boards and commissions and let them work on them. But at least we have a framework for where we're going. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept and approve this as our draft vision and guiding principles for historic district development.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I disagree in that this is more restrictive. I think it's actually a better set of guidelines for the Historic District Review Board to use. And as Sheila just said, from this point it goes forward, there's still a lot of work to be done to come up with the appropriate revisions to the actual guidelines. But my disagreement with the board has been that they are interpreting the guidelines as too strictly, and they need to be more liberal in their interpretation. They need to accept them as guidelines. We want to make it easier for people to get things done, not harder for people to get things done, while maintaining the historic credibility. So I actually think this is really going to help the committee or the board do their job better.
And in our discussions this morning, we did recognize that there has been flexibility over the past number of months. You know, it's until the board started gelling, there has been flexibility. We're just writing as one of our guiding principles, yes, on new construction, there is the ability, because it's not stated anywhere, there is ability to be flexible.
Guiding principles, not the law.
Correct, guiding principles. And those words I have seen in historic district guidelines in various communities. Reasonable, those types of words are embedded in those sections.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, Paul. That's
Thank you,
a
Paul.
lot of hard work.
What's next, Paul?
Well, now we'll get another subject.
Item 4C, utilities extension to residential 3 district. Matter?
Good evening. We've heard from the developer on the request that we received in October. The staff report gives you a summary of the history of this issue and where we are now. We did have the contract assigned to the town by the Public Service Authority. I have requested that First Profit provide a proposed change order for design and engineering for the wastewater well. Have not gotten that back from them yet. There are 2 new requests in the October letter, October 17th, I believe, October 7th, October 23rd, close enough. One is for a formal request for water service. We obviously do have that ability. The Director of Public Utilities' preference would be to extend the line from Creekside Lane. That's the shortest distance and also provides the benefit of moving the water through that area. That is an area, sort of a dead-end area for water there. So we provide the water flow through there, help the quality of the water. And then the second request was, which you heard tonight, justification for extension of time frame for payment of connection charges. The only thing I would add on that is, of course, the council just, I think fairly recently, within the last 6 months, provided additional flexibility for payment of those connection charges. So just want to refresh your memory on that. So really there are two items for your consideration tonight. Would you like staff to request a change order from First Profit to also do the engineering, design and engineering for water service extension to the property? And then the consideration on the request for a delay in payment of connection charges for future units at Public Greens.
So that's the only 2 things that we are dealing with. We handle those one at a time.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I make a motion that we direct staff to request First Profit to issue them a change order to provide design services for the water service extension.
Second.
So my question is, how much is this?
That's what you're going to find out.
Well, how can you offer a contract change order without knowing the amount that you're offering?
They're going to propose it to us.
Okay, well, it's a proposal then.
It's a
Okay,
proposal.
all right, that's different. Okay.
Fee proposal.
I can deal with that.
Best guesstimate, we're probably talking,
Yes.
they're engineers, so it's probably going to be $20,000 and You know, my guess on the construction cost is in the range of $80,000.
So we should,
Sorry, go ahead.
we should get then a proposal both for water and sewer.
I've already asked them.
Yeah, that, but I'm saying when it eventually comes back, we'll get,
Yeah, two, that's the motion.
gotcha.
So this is, appreciate the fact that making a connection from Creekside Lane will improve the water flow through that area. I happen to live there. There's also a water pressure issue there as well, so I want that to be considered in the design.
Well, you want a drilled shower?
All right, any more discussion on first part? All in favor? Opposed? Section 2. Council, consider the request from General Builders LLC for credits against utility connections for existing units, and extension of time to pay connection charges for future units.
I have a question, please.
Uh-huh.
Are these two different things? There seems like worded slightly differently from the materials that we had to this, what was presented tonight. So which thing are we thinking about?
They are two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, one is for the units that have been built, or will be built,
Credit
with
for
well
them.
and septic, we would credit the cost
Right.
of that back against connections when the connections were made.
Mhm.
And then the second request is for units not in that category. So new units that were built when water and sewer service existed, that the connection charges not be paid until the units were conveyed.
So it's like an A and B.
Yes.
So basically on what they're, once they, water and sewer's there, they're gonna eliminate the septic.
The fact that
Or future units.
for this unit.
For this
Well,
unit.
if it gets there in time, I don't know the timing on this.
No, it has it.
If it was timing to bring it out there, then we never heard what to say.
For whatever units are built with well and septic, when service gets there, they eliminate septic, and they eliminate water for domestic use except for outdoor use, watering, irrigation. And then, once septic's there, for future units that are built, they don't put in well and septic, they hook up to the system. And those are the units that they are addressing on the second part of the request for delay in paying of the connection charges.
So,
But we don't know what units they are, just.
right, I'm just trying to clarify this in my head. So basically, they've got one unit out there. There's gonna be well and septic for that unit. So such thing, that's the only unit they have.
Right.
We run water and sewer. They're gonna discontinue the water part of that and hook into city water and use their water for irrigation. The septic, are they gonna hook into our sewer?
Right.
What happens to the septic?
They abandoned it.
My question was, I got that there were two different things there, Bob. I think I was reading what Bill presented tonight versus what, this is exactly what I understood what you said, was what's in our earlier materials. But then this one said that the credit toward the, say, building one's ready for connection now, the septic will be installed at a significant cost, and we ask that these costs related to building one be credited toward connection fees once the town's utilities were ready. Then it says the second element of the request was not for a waiver of any future, but a reasonable time to pay them.
Right.
So is that after a reasonable time to pay minus the credits?
No,
That-
That's nothing to do with the credit.
separate, those are for units that are built after the availability of water and sewer.
Okay.
Where does the credit go to?
Yeah.
The credit is for the cost of the septic system.
It's
I know that,
yeah.
think of it as a discount on the payment of connection charges.
So in other words,
For
how many
future
places?
buildings or building one area?
For however many buildings they need water and sewer down there.
Okay, okay, okay.
So they're putting a lot of units, so it gets distributed across all of the units, really, in retrospect. If they build the whole development, the discount's gonna be really, in a nutshell, discounted over all those units,
Okay,
in the long term.
and on this letter then, a payment schedule, more like what we've already done, right? So you put together a payment plan to make those.
I think it would be much more liberal than what has already been done.
But
Well,
I
I should
heard
have
two
credit.
things. I heard one, a payment schedule, and then I heard another not paid until it was occupied.
Right, I'm hearing those two things too.
And I recommend, I mean, if you do decide to say until it's occupied, I would say, up to a year or something, because, say the economy.
Well, what was the criteria we've already agreed to? We've changed
we
this.
agreed to extend it from the time of pulling your permit till the time you get your CO.
Right.
So why would we change? We've already agreed.
We don't have to change, they're asking us to give them a consideration for that.
And you're talking about these payment options that we approved back in, last December.
I'm not
Right.
talking about any payment options, are you talking about payment, are they talking about payment?
That's
There
what,
was one, I heard,
what Deb was.
a payment plan, we call it, a payment
Yeah.
plan, which we have several that have taken advantage of that. The new suggestion or request was that we postpone billing for those fees until it changes hands, until the new owner. But that is a significant amount of time between CO and time of sale. I recommend truncate that period.
And one of those that we had from our last payment 3 was that payment of total connection facility fees at the time of issuance of the certificate of occupancy, but not to exceed 18 months from the date of the permit issuance.
So there's even an expiry.
So we already have that. Okay.
I think, for me, one thing we could tackle now, the other thing we're kind of being premature on the connections, they don't have to be tackled right now, for such a process. Once the connection's there, the process is go to the treasurer's office and see what plans are available. And the next process, if they don't agree with it, then bring it to council. And that's the pay connection charges for future unit part of it. The process, the first step is to go to the treasurer's office and see if the plan fits what we've already approved. And if the builder would like to bring it to council to try to get something else, that's at the time. I don't think that's a now thing. That's just me.
If I were the builder, I'd want to know ahead of
I was gonna say-
time what schedule I'd have to make payment, so I believe that's why they're asking ahead of time.
The bigger scheme possibility.
That's true, but, I mean, as we sit here right now, there's no water and there's no sewer there. We don't even know when it's gonna be water or sewer there. So, so, I mean, I'm just saying, this is, yeah.
Well, I want to get water and sewer there.
I do too. As fast as
But-
possible.
I don't even know how to make a motion on this.
I think we'd have to do them separately.
So we kind of got like an A, B, a B and A and an A, B.
B1 and B2.
Take the, I'll tell you what, take the credits first.
Are you gonna put a motion on there so we can discuss the
Yeah,
credit idea?
I'm trying to.
Okay.
I make a motion that we offset the cost, the unknown cost of the septic system. There's language in here that I can use.
Okay, can I just?
I'll make a motion that we credit the cost of the town's normal connection charges once town's utilities are reached the site. Credit the cost of the septic system. I think that's what he's asking. They want a credit for the cost of the septic system.
For the first building.
No, for any building that's completed.
It's written here,
Prior to-
building number
Building
one,
septic's done.
building number one.
Building number one is ready now.
That's ready now. The ask is for anything that's built.
Before the septic is out there.
That's the ask.
Is it water? Is it just the
It's
sewer
both.
system?
It's
and water?
both. Let me quote from
Utility.
the letter.
Yeah.
It looks like they're two different things.
We would further propose that at such time as the town's services are available, we would be given credit for all expenses of our water and sewer installations to date,
Where is that?
which would apply to the cost of town connection and
This-
activities.
That's for something.
Page 59.
Right, but that's different than what it says in the letter we just got tonight.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and it, that was gave us a slightly, reads slightly different. That was the cause of my confusion.
Yeah, let me just, from my perspective here,
I'll second.
the only,
Oh,
okay,
discussion.
if you're opening
Got a
up,
motion.
Well, we don't have a motion yet.
yeah, he's still
You're still
working.
working? Oh, okay.
Let's just, let's go big
Motion
picture.
to be pretty good. Get a motion to move well.
I'm trying to group these all together.
Well, we're not, do they want credit for the well?
Yeah, if water services don't.
Well, they're gonna use the well for irrigation, so I'm not interested in entertaining credit for the well.
Just want to make sure you understand the request.
Okay, so in my mind, I don't have any justification of why we're going to give any credits.
We're gonna get a motion on the table.
We don't have a motion.
I know what we're trying to get at.
I am trying to say, in my motion would end up being denying all requests for monies associated, whether it's credits or reduction, and only approve a regional extension of time in accordance with our currently approved payment scheme. I'm not looking to give anything back here on utilities. Why should we provide credit back
Well,
on the
because we
septic?
need to have a motion before we can discuss it.
Point of order.
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we consider, so I'm gonna put these two things separately. But, for purposes of discussion, we consider, the opportunity of crediting this developer for what this letter says, which is building one that is ready for utility construction now, and that they ask us the cost of the septic system be credited toward the town's normal connection charges once the town's utilities reach the site for connection.
We got a motion. We got a second.
Okay, now
Any
let's
discussion?
talk about, now let's talk
Yeah,
about.
I don't agree.
concept of credit.
I don't see why we're doing that.
I don't see that we even have it in our code to do that. It's not one of our options in here currently. I'm just saying, I'm not, but we need the utilities out there, we do, no question.
We
We
do.
need it, no, absolutely.
You know, and the letter was well written, that in hindsight, they only learned recently, that doesn't hold any weight for me. And we do have a already agreed to schedule for fees, for connection fees that has moved out and delayed collection of those fees from time of permit to time of CO. I don't have any desire to change that for this. The letter mentions the 12,000 hookup fee for each unit, although they do also mention it's going to be 1 and 2 bedrooms, and the 1 bedrooms are half that. And they failed to mention that by bringing water and sewer out here, they get to have an additional 36
Correct.
units.
Correct.
And I don't know what they're selling for, but if it's 200,000 a unit, that's an additional $7.2 million.
Yes.
That is going to them, which is, you know, good for them. I'm happy for them, and I think that's where we ought to aim, is to get water and sewer out there and let them fully develop that piece of property. I'm not in agreement that we should extend the period of connection fees, nor should we credit the septic system.
Yes.
Do we have any idea what the credit being requested amount is?
I have no idea.
It doesn't say either of the letters that we get. So there's the concept of credit, but then I was wondering if there's an estimate.
There was no data in the original.
Okay. Well, I really don't see, unless Deb, if you please can help me here if I'm saying something wrong, but when I pulled up our town's code and in this, the connection charges and how the payment options that were approved by council last, looks like December. I mean, we certainly already have this, an 18-month opportunity. So that sort of makes sense to me. I mean, I would hope we could get this done sooner than later, right, get the utilities extended out there, really.
Yes.
And it's gonna cost us a good bit of money to do that. But I think all of us feel so, it's so important to get it done. But I don't see how that we have really the authority in any, we have to change what we're doing to have a credit established.
You have to pass a law.
Yeah, I mean, do y'all agree with me? We don't
I
have
mean,
it.
the quality of that development will be still improved by
That is
having
correct.
town water and sewer as opposed to having these above ground
That is
septic
correct.
systems all over the place.
That is correct.
Absolutely.
One of my questions, and it's not specifically related to the things they're asking for, but is the reference to workforce housing. The reality is that these are still purchases, they're not apartments.
Privately owned.
Privately owned, so
It's not being subsidized by the government.
we're not, well, but workforce housing isn't necessarily subsidized by the government, so I'm not talking affordable housing. But it's not really meeting our workforce challenge, just so that we're aware of that. I mean, those folks aren't looking to buy a $200,000 home, not looking to buy anything. They're looking to rent something. And with us putting water and sewer out there, what I was thinking is that we were at least going to get something out of it that was going to really help our workforce housing issue. And in that, I would lean in the direction of what could we do to help make that happen.
So that's why we're running it out big enough so we can deal with the cat property, which is not available until 2023. So that's 14 acres. Possibilities for that. Correct? Why are we doing this? We're going to big enough to go after the cat property.
What we'd be short-sighted to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to-
That's the second, that's the first extension increment in the concept.
We just going to make sure we have that there to do it.
And this line has to be big enough to
Bob knows it.
accommodate the extension.
Mr. Mayor, may I address? First of all, we weren't actually clear on the fact that you had changed your fee payment to CO issuance. That is new to us today. And so, and that's a very acceptable concept, and that should work fine. As to the credits, we've got 4 septic system permits. They are required to be designed by a civil engineer and permitted by DEQ and the health department. Those 4 permits probably cost $25,000 or more just to get the engineering done and get the permits issued. The system that has to be built per building is about $40,000, $45,000. I don't think we've got final bids on it yet, but it's not an inexpensive system. We've been given permits and our building permits approved by the town. We are having the ability to move forward with the project. What we were saying is we would like for this to be conforming with the town. We got some understanding that there was actually a necessity that the town not have private sewage systems, but everything be hooked up to the town system. So we're saying, well, great, we'll jump on board and go ahead and disconnect our buildings and abandon our systems as long as it doesn't, there's not a cost associated with, you know, being double taxed, having to install a sewage system twice. If we couldn't get credit, then I guess we'd be forced to just say, well, we'll just not put that building on the town system, we'll just leave it on the system that's already paid for, the septic system, if that works, and then that would eliminate the need for a credit. Bringing these lines to the property does not give us new density. We've got the ability to put 100 units on that property with private septic systems. it will cause them to be probably not highest and best use because there'll be fewer bedrooms and so forth that will result. So this isn't necessarily going to enhance a lot, but it would make it better for the town. And so we're saying we would do that. We would build a septic system and then have to reconnect, reconfigure, pay additional costs so that we could do a better job for us and the town. And that's the reason for the request, so that we don't have to pay for sewage connection twice for all these buildings. It's too much, it's not doable. And the hope was that by getting a credit, it would allow us to just normalize the thing on town utilities, just as a
I think we're here trying to negotiate something that's perhaps flushed out in more detail.
Is it mandated, once that public water, or the sewage is out, they have to hook up?
Yes.
Well, the wording, and I think that's where the misconception is, you know, we have a town code that wants to put you on sewer or water. However, the wording, I think, is caveated with if the main is within 100 feet or something to that effect, the desire. So that there is a condition associated with what the desire is. They don't have that right now. Us getting it closer would force the issue of them having to put it on if it's within 100 feet.
Now,
That's the number.
I have a question for Bob. If basically, that would be the town main or the structure that's in their development?
Town main.
All right. So the only reason I'm clarifying that is Old Cape Charles Road, those lots that are right there before Bender's Lane, they're not going to be within 100 feet. In other words,
They're outside of the town
They're
limits.
No,
Yeah.
Bender's Lane.
not Bender's Lane, but the other Clinton's old house.
The two houses.
So two houses.
They're required to hook up.
So that's going to
What's
force
the lines there?
So it'd be within 100 feet.
Oh, yeah. The right of way there is, I don't know the exact, the plan is to put the sewer main on the south side of the road, because there's no telephone poles there. And the right of way there is, that's 50, 60 feet, so, right, 100 feet property lines.
I think
On
we
the
need
north
to
side.
get, prepare a letter for those folks on those properties, so they know ahead of time. Just be fair about that.
Well, that's just part of the annex area, it's brought in Martin Farm. And it's just like the, where the brewery is, that was brought in, and all of those were on septic at the time they were in, right? So maybe what we ought to do is, kind of tag along with your idea, is look at our payment options. If we want to come up with some way to incent development and not just what Angelo's doing, but all the way out there and really with some for workforce housing, maybe we come up with within our payment options of those four, another one that does provide for some amount of credit in areas where we see workforce housing as a possibility. Then it wouldn't be specific to an individual developer, but we know that's the main area that we have for the extension. I think we've to set that issue aside and try to come up with a policy that makes sense for development.
And that's really, when I talked grant, that was really to have a consultant that understands, that can come in and say, here's what the town of Cape Charles could offer,
Right.
1, 2, 3.
And I
But that
would-
doesn't mean that you can't split off this as a separate.
Right, so
So-
I'm all for us looking at payment options, and the credit is a way for connection when there's a developer coming in to do something. The true way to set it up, I'm all for that. And
It kind of goes back to what Paul worked on months and months ago.
yes,
So that would be,
Dwelling, it's the same concept for the developer level.
so we'd have to amend it.
but we have it as part of our code, a policy that would, we're doing something more generalized like that.
So,
Particularly because we don't really know what it is we're talking about here. I think it is preliminary in terms of how much credit, and I don't see how we can currently do it under our own code.
so for me, I really get what we're saying, about paying for a septic and then paying into our sewer. I get it. I don't want to discourage people from looking into sewer. Both counties are trying to get away from septics. And I don't feel like that we're encouraging septic. So I think it's important that we get these lines out there sooner rather than later. I can't much say blame them if they don't look into it, if they're going to pay 25, 35, 45, 50, 80, whatever that number may be to provide sewer for that thing, and then have to turn around and pay anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 per unit inside. Again, hook up
Well, I
to
understand.
our
Let's just
sewer.
develop
I
it,
think,
let's think about that. That's just part of the cost of doing business. But if we want to incent development in certain areas, if we want to incent developers to come in, then there's a mechanism that we could maybe do something, but that's going to have to be a code change, I think. So could I call for the question on the motion that was on hand so we can get rid of that wording? Mike?
go ahead.
Well, I just did, I'm calling the question.
Hopefully Libby can repeat it to us, so we're really.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go back to
I can-
We're like, huh?
I can remember, I read it partly out of the second one.
It says, move to consider for purposes of discussion, the opportunity of crediting this developer for building one that's ready for utility construction now, the cost of the septic system to be credited toward the town's utility charges once the lines reach.
Would you like to change your motion?
No, because I'm told to vote no.
Yeah, we'll have.
I mean,
I don't know why you're asking that way.
well, because we need to do something with that motion that's
Right.
laid out
So we
here.
got a motion, we got a second.
Right. We have a motion, I'll second, I've called for the question, and I vote you're,
All in favor? All opposed?
no.
No.
Thank you. But
Anybody want to make a motion? All right. What we have? Up next, capital improvement process.
Oh, boy. I just want people to be impressed with the cover sheet that I had developed. Everything else is a little suspect.
We got the date right on this one.
All right, so I'm not gonna hammer this home, but let's just talk big picture of where we are. We're not too far off. Everybody got the list of comments? We'll just talk big picture. Capital improvements program document that's really would set in motion how a 5-year plan is put together. That's what the intent was. Comments went out from the last meeting, or the action was for people to comment from the last meeting, which I did. And that's what you have in front of you. I have a series of comments. And I don't want to really go through each and every one, but I really appreciate the effort that people went through, scrubbing through. It really wasn't a showstopper. This is things that will improve this document and questions that we still need to answer as a group. And I'll talk to those particular things. So I appreciate Bob coming back, Debbie coming back, so that really, really helped. Let me just go down the particular areas that we can perhaps chime in on. One being fiscal policy and debt limits, okay? Page 4 and page 5 deal with those particular ones. Now, what I had done is when I went through a whole series of towns and cities and their particular plans, some had their fiscal policies right in the capital improvement program. Meaning that I'm not going to borrow, if it's excess of this or what have you. And all I did was cut and pasted a whole bunch of examples there, and that's why it's in italics, saying that that's an area that we need to sit and refine. But the real question is, do we want it to reside in this particular document relative to capital improvements, or have a separate fiscal policy? Because if you remember, the Davenport report came, when they audited and what have you, and they came up with a whole series of policies, aside from this, that said we really should be documenting what the town's policy is in these particular areas. So what I would offer up in this particular case is collapse this section to a one sentence that references a policy document that will be future developed. And I don't want that future to be a year from now, but to settle on what aspect it is for capital improvements in that fiscal policy and all the other things Davenport was suggesting, to make it easier and collect it in one place. So that's one thing, if you all agree, I can collapse that one section and keep that dialogue separately for that aspect.
I agree.
Okay? The capital items, on the 20,000 that was proposed, I just put a number in there, and it can be changed depending on the size of the city or town that I looked at. That number went anywhere from 10 grand up to 100 grand. So we have the flexibility to sit back and choose, and I'd say, not tonight, we'll sit down in the town offices and discuss what is the best proposal to come back, and then we can talk from there, okay? We agree with that aspect, okay. Don't know if there's anything else that really was, a couple editorial, Bob certainly went through a lot of editorial changes which were a benefit. I don't think there's anything else here that I really need to approve. That's the two areas that I wanted some direction on, and my intent is to sit down with Ed, Bob, Smitty, hammering out another draft of this to bring back for another round. But I think we're close, just given what we had seen there. I think we're there. Okay. So with that, that's all I wanted to offer on that subject. All right.
Your dance card was full tonight.
Yeah, really.
It gets paid a lot for it too.
I guess my question to council is, do you all feel that it's close enough for an adoption language?
Yeah,
No?
No, I think another draft
Yeah.
needs to come, and then you can decide.
yeah, this is good.
We're close though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost.
The Queen's Week. Jim knows that term well.
You may adopt at the next meeting the template form for filling out capital. If that's a good form to utilize, we can separate that out so we can start filling it out with various projects, because we're in that mode of starting to develop our capital improvement plan.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, don't you have already something similar to that?
It's very simplistic, and like you can tweak a little, we can start with that.
Yeah, so what I've got here, Bob felt that the form was good, and I'd say, next meeting, we can say, let's start using the form that was attached to this programming document. Because it's very specific, and it has, your levels of priorities and what have you that's tied into it.
Yeah, that needs to be added, but the basic framework is in.
But I set it up in a certain way that it can be lifted and put in an Excel spreadsheet in a particular series of years that you can utilize.
Oh, okay.
Right. All right.
All right. Any more discussion on that? All right, up next, resolution for Cape Charles to be included as part of the Hampton Roads Sanitation District. I guess for a few months now, or several months, Accomack County and Northampton County supervisors have been discussing wastewater service extensions, pretty much from Nasquatics to the Hancock. And part of those discussions have included the Hampton Roads Sanitation District taking over wastewater within that area. And I believe possibly taking over the Nancock's wastewater treatment plant. Somewhere along the way, there was some letters, some meetings and some letters sent out with a draft resolution. I was not part of those meetings, but I believe there's a thing, a push that for people to join the Hampton Roads Sanitation District. And from the best of my recollection, if we join, if we adopt a resolution to join, it's really just saying we're part of the district. That's not saying that they're going to come in and take over our wastewater treatment plant or anything like that. That's a whole nother thing down the road. If we don't join, it's going to be kind of difficult to get in. And I think Councilman Birch.
I'd love to speak to it if I may.
Yes.
The Hampton Roads Sanitation District has been working with a working group up and down the shore. Jeff Holland has been the chairperson of that group for the purpose of working out in the first phase of hopefully what could be several phases of providing sanitary sewer service on the shore. That's all they do. They're a statutorily created body from back in the late 30s, and they have all the way from like King William and over on the Western Shore and Surrey and Isle of Wight and all the way back over that direction. So they have an extremely large service area that they are, and there are several different ways to be included in their district for the purpose of getting services provided at some later point. But the first level is you don't get it if you're not in their service area. So this resolution, each county's doing it slightly differently, but Accomack is having the petition to actually be done. And I think maybe Northampton, maybe Spencer can speak to this, but the petition can be done by the Hampton Roads Sanitation District itself to include a whole county. Now, what happens is there's an error in the discussion here, is this petition is actually done to the circuit, at the circuit court level, and then any community that does not want to be included has an opportunity at a public hearing that the circuit court judge will hold to say, we want to opt out, okay?
After we do this resolution.
And after the petition is
Well,
submitted,
once
after the
they-
petition is
yeah.
submitted to the circuit court, okay? But even if you don't, okay, the second level, which we're not even included in at this point as far as Cape Charles is concerned, and anything south of Massawattis, would be some sort of an operating agreement if we wanted to go into any kind of operation scheme with Hampton Roads Sanitation District. That's not what this is about. This is just to be included in their service area. I am strongly in favor of it for the future of our town and our county and getting services. And I've sat through several meetings with these folks in the general work group. And, you know, I'll speak for them. What it looks like for the benefit of the shore at large is to have a much, much larger service area of over 450,000 customers already, I believe. Spencer, correct me, John?
$500,000.
Yeah, 500,000 customers, of which the shore would just, you know, bring on, we only have 50, 60,000 total people here if everybody came on, which they could because there's not that kind of service. So I'm strongly in favor of us, you know, spreading on our bucks a resolution that we support Cape Charles being part of the service district.
Is it, just similar, I'm thinking long term, are they gonna buy our plant?
No. This wouldn't involve anything like that at all. This is just the
So what's
first.
the purpose of joining it then?
The purpose of joining is if in the next section, like right now they're talking about the service line picking up from Massawattis and Heritage Hall particularly, and going north to Anancock. There are some plans right now that our legislators are working to try to buy down some of the debt on the Anancock plant, okay? But Anancock would be the main service plant, because this is where like the hospital waste is going, the county service line from the industrial park north, up to behind the,
Well, I'm
Walmart's
talking about
Plaza.
when it heads down this way.
That's all to be negotiated, okay? But they typically do not buy debt. They typically do not come in and take off debt. They do work out.
Well, you see where I'm going, Bob.
Well,
You
could I-
got $19 million plant there that we bought, and what are we gonna do, give it to them?
Let me give you an example. If we belong to HRC now, you wouldn't be dealing with the problem of extending water and sewer to the Arthur properties.
That's right.
Because of their financial.
I got a couple of questions.
Please,
Chairman Murray?
yeah, I don't speak for the HRC.
Chairman Murray, you mind coming up a minute? I got
And I'm just sharing my experience, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Bob. You're
Yeah.
a perfect example.
So, I guess from my understanding, so the HRSD is actually doing the petition for Accomack County.
Yes, sir.
And so the towns in Accomack,
They are automatically included.
they're automatically included, in it, but if they don't want to be,
They have an opportunity at the level.
In the process,
Yeah, in the process to opt out. But Accomack County has sent to each town the same resolution to say, do you want to have official action on this, spread it under your minutes, so on and so forth. But the way it is proceeding is that the county will be having HRSD to do the application.
I guess my question to you, is Northampton County following suit from?
it is on our agenda for the 10th, and preliminary feeling from the chairman, and I'm only one vote, is that we will pass it unanimously for the whole of the county. For the reason that was put in the fourth paragraph, the fourth whereas, which was passed by my reader. Whereas the HRSD has represented that if the town of, in this case, Cape Charles territory is included in HRSD, sanitary sewer services would not be provided by HRSD until the town and the HRSD have entered into a formal operating agreement, which agreement would be separate and apart from this resolution, and which would be specific to the town of Cape Charles. So basically, the danger of opting out at the court level is, quite frankly, then if Cape Charles wanted to get back in, you would have to go to the circuit court. You would have to do all of this legal work and everything yourself. And basically, I feel that it's a good thing for the whole Eastern Shore. I've met with them. I have spoken to the town of Nassau at their meeting. They passed it that night. I spoke to Mayor Lamont, and they have passed it. I spoke to, not quite so eloquently, at Exmoor, and they passed it 4-2. And Eastville has passed it as well. So, and I really think, we sit here, stand here, Mr. Mayor, all the time. Every one of us talk about, you said it tonight, infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. It's key to the growth of what we can do here. The DEQ is getting more and more, Steve, you know this, stringent all the time. We are going to get to the point where we cannot dig mass drain fields. And I don't even know the answer, but for septic. But when somebody's septic system fails now, they are looking at thousands and thousands of dollars just in permits. A mountain system is $28,000. One of the things that I said at one of the, when you and Bev Leatherberg presented the legal aspect of this, Sheila, was that, yeah, I have to think about all the towns. I can't just think about Exmoor, which is quite frankly in extremis. And I have to think about Nassau, which is a dead zone right now, quite frankly, with Riverside owning this little defunct sewer system. And in public record, they were put on another consent order last week, fined $10,000 and have till February to make some changes. I have to think about people who are not in the town. You know that those septic systems in Treehernville, you know those septic systems in Bird's Nest, you know those things are going to fail if they're not already failing. And sometime, and it'll be long after I'm gone, but at some point in time, we're gonna have to have service for those people too. So as I did at your previous meeting, Mr. Mayor, I would urge you all to give us great consideration, if you would. Are there any other?
Yeah, I have a question. I understand the nature of what's being proposed here. One thing that I'm concerned with is we're essentially saying we are going to eventually become part of the Hampton Roads Sanitation District. Forget the operating agreement.
Okay.
By signing what we have here, we are stating as
You're
a
in
town
You're in this
that
map.
we are now in that, and it's just a matter of time that we negotiate an operating agreement. Separate.
If you want to. HRSD has situations on the Western Shore and other places where they're in the district, but they don't operate. They had a very similar situation in Surrey, like Exmoor, where Surrey had a failing system. And they had it was tremendously an outage, about 350 customers and so forth. HRSD had to come in right away and take that over. That was a failing system. But they also have places, and they've negotiated with Middlesex and Gloucester and other places, where they don't operate the collection system or the wastewater system, but you're still considered in the geographical region.
All right, so my fallback position is we may never get to an operating
You
agreement.
may not have.
But if we do, we essentially are turning over our facilities to them, and they are then billing their service area. And they can elect to run lines out to Cheriton and up the road and down the road and do whatever they want, because we're all in the sanitary.
Well, the thing of it is, Paul, is that they don't typically elect to do things. They're driven by need more than anything else. And frankly, I mean, I think that's a good thing, because their philosophy is, and their mission from back from the 30s was very, very simple. They want clean water for the creeks and the bays. That's what they exist for. Millions and millions and millions of tons of waste were going into the Chesapeake Bay and the lower tributaries into the whole watershed years ago. That's how this all happened. But whether you ever turn anything over or not, whether or not they take your debt, whatever, they will not expand the collection system within the town. The collection system expansion is your responsibility. If you build something, you know, that you want to. But once you do it, they will take it over, they will operate it, they will bill it, they will fix it when it's broken, and so forth. And I can tell you, excuse me 1 minute, the night after Exmoor voted, Ted Hannafin called Andy, called Robert Dewar and Taylor Dukes and said, what can I send? Oh, can I send some technicians over to help you see if you can solve your immediate problem? And ladies and gentlemen, I have seen the plant. They got an immediate problem.
Spencer.
I'm sorry, Andy, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm exactly the same thing you're thinking, Paul. The problem is, I mean, we're doing all this collection of hookup fees. Now, I mean, if we go outside of the town district, how are we gonna justify, I mean, are we gonna still basically put those same fees in there? If we don't have an operating agreement.
You're not setting fees anymore. You're paying taxes
But we got, like I
according to
said,
what they're setting.
So we're basically gonna turn over an $19 million plant at no funding.
I think that that's a bit.
I mean, I'm not saying it's short sighted, but that's a lot of money that we put into that.
That's an all part of an operating agreement, how that is determined, and that's not the point of this
No,
resolution.
and if you look, I mean, the fourth one down very clearly says that, it explains that very clearly.
But it's the message that we're sending through this resolution and adoption, that we want to be part of this district. And it's only a matter of time.
And we do. And I mean, you know, we tried regionalization years ago, Bob well knows, and got beat down, and they killed the PSA that was started to try and kickstart regionalization years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. We can't survive if we don't have regionalized water and sewer.
But at the same time,
the same time.
Long-term, think long-term.
The
It's
town-
not 2 years from now, we're gonna give away a $19 million plant. 20 years from now, there's gonna be, you know, there's not, you're not gonna be able to survive.
The town shareholder thought we were possessed by the devil when we asked them to join. That was it. And I
Well,
spent-
and
I
they
just
sent a
spent
resolution to do
$20,000.
it.
And they passed a resolution
Yeah.
because
They won't believe.
Chris is exactly, what's happening at the church and right now is that they're having people with septic systems.
Failing.
Right.
And that's ugly. I've had it happen one time in Chesterfield County. I never want to go through it again in my life. I'm as sensitive to what goes into my septic system as anybody, because you just run out of options with that.
I agree with Steve and the regional position of this, that this is what's best for the shore. And I know we cannot do it and everything else moves forward, but I think it says something significant if we do not, if we're not a part of that.
Well,
I just don't think that's a good idea at all.
I mean, I'm all for becoming part of the region, part of the district. I think the operating thing, that's gonna have to be an agreement between you six and them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a long ways away, and that's a lot of negotiating,
Yeah.
that's a lot of, and I don't believe either one of you six up here would do anything to put the taxpayers in Cape Charles in jeopardy
No.
when it comes to that, so that's,
I think
Yeah, I
the
think
resolution states that very clearly,
Yeah.
that's an option.
Spencer, is going to be mandatory hookup.
That would be getting local.
You're going to be shot.
Yeah, well, that's right. But we had a situation, I'll just tell you, we had a situation the next morning involving one of our county employees. I'll take one moment, if you don't mind. This individual works for the county. She's not a wealthy person. Her home in Exmoor was 2 blocks from where the sewer system. They could not hook her up because they were on a percent on it from DEQ. She had to spend $8,500 to get a new system put in, okay? It was $4,000, but they were gonna put in a system, but it wasn't transferable with the title. She spent another $4,500 to get a system that, she actually had an old cinder block septic system. I mean, it was that old, so she had no choices, and that's my whole point. We've got to be able to think in the future, however long it is, to give people choices that they can afford. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any other questions?
thank you, John.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So the night, it was put on there for discussion, but council has the option, if they wish to, make a motion to change it from information to an action.
I would very much support it being not only an action item, but I would speak in favor of the resolution and ask for its adoption this evening.
Second.
So we're seconded to make it an action item. One at a time.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
My second part, okay. I would move that we adopt this resolution for the inclusion of the town of Cape Charles and petition to the Circuit Court of Northampton County for the town to be added to the Hampton Roads Sanitation District as presented in our package this evening.
Second.
Resolution 2019-1205, authorizing the inclusion of the town of Cape Charles, Virginia, in a petition to the Circuit Court of Northampton County for the town to be added to the Hampton Roads Sanitation District. Town Council of Cape Charles, Virginia, in this meeting on the 5th day of December 2019, adopted the following. We haven't adopted yet. Can I get a roll call vote?
Buckles, yes.
Holloway, yes.
Yes.
Grossman, yes.
Burge, yes.
Whereas the town council has interest on behalf of the citizens to be included in the Hampton Roads Sanitation District for the purpose of potentially providing sanitary sewer services for the public health, safety, and welfare of citizens. And whereas the Hampton Roads Sanitation District Commission, a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Virginia, was established as a governmental instrumentality to provide for the public health and welfare, and whereas the County of Northampton, on behalf of all county citizens, has initiated discussions with the Hampton Roads Sanitation District regarding becoming a part of the territory, including in the district ordinance with the Enabling Act creating the Hampton Roads Sanitation District, Chapter 666 of the 1960 Acts of the Assembly as amended, and whereas the Hampton Roads Sanitation District has represented that if the town of Cape Charles territory is included in the Hampton Roads Sanitation District, sanitary sewer services would not be provided by the Hampton Roads Sanitation District until the town and the Hampton Roads Sanitation District have entered into a formal operating agreement, which agreement will be separate and apart from this resolution and which will be specific to the town of Cape Charles. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Cape Charles be included in a petition to the Circuit Court of Northampton County for the purpose of adding the territory of the town of Cape Charles to the HRSD. Be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution be forwarded to the county administrator of Northampton County. Right. Town manager update, recruitment update. Past Wednesday, the committee held phone interviews. We've narrowed it down to 2. I guess we'll be reaching out to council to set dates, probably January, to actually have in-person interviews with the final 2.
Did they tell you there was a test people?
They did. Can I get a motion to recess? All in favor?